so thankful that you guys rock with this podcast, that you have subscribed to this podcast, or that you tell somebody else about this podcast. Whatever you do in showing your support for this podcast means so much to me. And the biggest compliment is when you share it with somebody else. So thank you for, rocking with your boy and Black Tech Green Money. What we're trying to do here is give you insights, knowledge on wealth creation, and this is particularly for people who are either building or leveraging technology for their wealth and legacy. And so, this podcast, this particular episode, is going to be a little bit more about what's been going on with me in 2024 and what I plan for 2025. What we tend to do is expect unintentionally often. I don't think it's, something that we do just maliciously, but what we tend to do is assume that because the year has changed that things are just different. And I had this post that I put up on, I think, in my threads a couple of days ago. It's like, just because it's a new year, if you don't change the operations, the way your habits work, and et cetera, then your 2025 will be actually worse than your 2024. And that's because the landscape around you is changing. So one of the biggest lessons I learned in business was like, there is no stasis, like there is no flat. What we assume is flat is just because the numbers may be the same as they were last year. Maybe we didn't grow as much as we could have or should have, or maybe we're down just slightly. All of those things mean you're down because the market is continuing to progress, and you being flat means that everything else is changing around you and going in a positive direction while you're stuck where you were. So if you have not taken the initiative and responsibility of changing your habits and putting systems in place, changing your operations, then things will be what they were last year. And that means that you will be increasingly behind. And so I've already started to feel, and we're a weekend, I've already started to feel the pressure of 2025 and the things that are in front of me, the things that are on my plate. What happened to me in 2024 was, by the end of the year, September, October, I was on fumes, like legit running on fumes. And it's my own fault. And I will talk more about that. Like, I have a few businesses. TolHouse is one. TolHouse is a private social club that is designed for the city dwelling creative and entrepreneurial class. And so it's in my hometown of Toledo, Ohio. We're sitting right on the water. The water's right outside, where I am right now. I'm in my Creadio office. Creadio is my marketing company. That office is right here inside TolHouse in the front of the building. So TolHouse is 25,000 square feet that we own here. There's 5 bars, there's 5 lounges, there's a coffee house here. There's a jazz club, jazz and blues is what we do in there. There's a cigar lounge in there. There's a pub in the back. There's a co-working space with 2 boardrooms, 2 conference rooms, a work lounge. There's a private dining area, all of these different amenities that we offer to our members. And some of these areas are open to the public, like the coffee house and the jazz club, but everything else is for members and their guests. So that's TolHouse. Then Creadio is a marketing technology and production agency. So we do everything from video production, website development, communication strategy, design, and more out of Creadio. And that business is a business that I've been running since 2007. And so Creadio, and my team is actually next door in the office next to me. And so that team is a growing team, and we are really working to, particularly for the region that we're in, is help companies and organizations reach and engage multicultural and diverse audiences. So we specifically work with, not intentionally, but specifically, our customers just tend to be governments, nonprofits, school systems, etc., because they are trying to reach and engage multicultural and diverse audiences. We do other things. Those just tend to be the people who have us on retainer. Then beyond that, there's 4 total real estate properties that we own right on this same strip. So I have this building that I'm in right now, which is the TolHouse and Creadio operation. The next door is a building that we bought earlier in 2024. And so that's another 10,000 square feet. Then about 2 blocks down on this same street, right on the water, there's 2 more buildings that I bought. I want to say in 2023, and in 2022, we bought 2 other buildings. In total, there's 60,000 square feet that we have right in this same stretch, which is the historic Vistula district in Toledo. And so I'm committed to this area, number one, because I saw the most opportunity here and the most white space for getting my ideas out into the world. Like, I'm not a real estate holder from the perspective of I'm trying to lease out space. I have enough ideas of my own, and I'm an operator. And so I am interested in starting my own operations out of these properties. Now that doesn't mean like forever I won't lease out or rent out space, but I'm working on getting my operations going for the business ideas that are very quickly coming into fruition. So TolHouse, being the first physical footprinted business that mattered, I guess, for square footage. Like Creadio, we didn't necessarily need a place where customers could come. But we do intend to have more space for creatives to be able to produce. And so obviously I do a podcast. I've been podcasting for almost a decade, if not a decade. And there are many people in my community who want to get into podcasting, video and or audio. And what we're doing is creating space for them to be able to have studios. And so you'll see more of that kind of thing come up if you're following along in my business journey. But the point in telling you all these things, and there's also other things, like there's boards I sit on. I just actually recently termed off of the University of Toledo Board of Trustees. I was the chair of the board up until a couple of months ago. And I'm currently vice chair of the Casino Control Commission for the state of Ohio. And I will term off of that board in very short order, just a couple of months. And so what's important to me is that I'm doing things that feed the mission. And so my life's mission is to create content and opportunities that helps Black people realize entrepreneurial success beyond their wildest dreams. So everything I do is intended to do that. What happens is, because I'm involved in so many things and I have a family, because I have so many things going on, I can get bogged down with just a to-do list. The to-do list drives my day. My calendar and my to-do list drive my day. And it's not a great way to live. It is a way to live, but the businesses end up unintentionally driving me, or at least my intention is not for them to drive me, but they end up driving me because I'm just doing so many things. And mind you, I've been doing this with like a virtual assistant, a remote assistant, somebody who used to live in Toledo, no longer lives in Toledo, but helps me now remotely. She mostly manages my calendar and my schedule and projects for the Creadio team, but I have not had an on-site assistant in a long time, or assistant that I'm seeing regularly on site in a long time. And part of that's my fault, because I have not found one I work well with. And Sada, who's my assistant now, is fantastic. And even though she's remote, there's so much comfort there. She knows what I like. She knows what I don't like. She knows how I like my schedule to be outlined. She knows when I don't want to take meetings or whatever. And so she's already aware of my proclivities, the things that I like set up in specific ways. But what happens is when you don't have somebody nearby or, within arm's reach, that things just end up coming to you, and there's like no barrier between me and opportunities. There's to vet these opportunities, because not every opportunity is a good opportunity and not every opportunity is for you. But I am the blessing and like I don't want to say curse, but like the good and bad thing that I have in equal parts. I'm equal part business and creative. And so that's my superpower. And so I am really good at operating and really good at creativity. And so what happens is, because I have ideas, I can roll and rock out on those ideas very quickly. And that's not always a great thing. It is good to be able to move fast, but that doesn't mean you always should move fast. Because if you've heard the old adage, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'm learning that and living that in real time, because I put myself in positions that require me to continue to go fast. And I'm paying for that in many ways because I've not always brought people along. And so I've had to learn as an entrepreneur and as a CEO that, you can't always turn on a dime. It's great to be flexible and it's great to be agile, but you will burn yourself out if you continue to turn on dimes at 100 miles an hour. And so at the end of last year, again, September, October, somewhere around there, which is gassed, like even at AfroTech, and even, actually probably not AfroTech because I was rested up for AfroTech, but globally, just exhausted. And I've learned how to operate exhausted, but it's not good to operate exhausted. I'm not bragging. I'm not saying that, this is the way to live, grind time. I'm not saying that at all, because it's not great to live that way. But I'm coming out of the season of living that way. And that means putting in position and putting in place operations and systems that allow me to have more space in my life. And so if you don't have space, the things that would come to you can't even find an opportunity to get to you. Like if you don't have space in your life, you will miss out on other things. And so what I found is that it's equally as important to build the operation as it is to have great ideas. Everybody's got an idea. Everybody's got, things that they believe that they will start as a business. Everybody's got great ideas. I'm sure somebody has ideas that will never come into being, because it's not just about having the idea. It's about also putting together the systems and executing on those ideas in appropriate ways. And I've always executed, but I have not always executed in appropriate ways. And therefore it's caused strain and stress in areas of my life. And I'm just like, I can't continue to live like this. And so I've been fixing those things. And I dug myself so deep into so many of these respects that it's like, now it's an opportunity to come out, and coming out of that hole that I've dug for so long. You don't just jump out of the hole. You have to climb out of the hole. And I've been finding myself with opportunities to climb out of the hole. And so it's been a process, and it is a process that I will continue to do for the rest of my life. Because as you get one thing going, other things, again, come into play. And there are other businesses that will be launching this year that will change the landscape once again. But the important thing is to not make those same mistakes again. And so I'm looking forward to sharing more about this particular journey. But I want to talk about today how I'm using the things that I've learned over this past year for my 2025. And so particularly as it relates to me, my professional, journey, and TolHouse and Creadio. So we've been leaning very heavily into AI, as you should be. If you're not, what are you doing? But just in some very simple ways and some very in-depth ways, but the very simple stuff, like we have, again, a jazz club here at TolHouse in Lucille's Jazz Lounge. So if you look it up online, it's just lucillesjazzlounge.com. That's my jazz club. And because I do podcasting and I do voice stuff, I was doing all the intros for our performers. And so what I would find is I would always be left with a batch of intros to go record. And that's just another thing to do. So like none of the things that found their way onto my to-do list were like super complex things. It was just another thing. And like big problems aren't made always of big issues. Like big problems are made of small issues. It's like, when I was growing up, I learned that, you don't just go from a well-running vehicle to needing new rotors. Like, you go from a well-running vehicle to brake pads that need to be changed. And if you don't fix the brake pads, that becomes a different problem. And if you don't fix that problem, that becomes a different problem. And the problems compound. Like, so what could have been a $30, $40, $50 fix now is a couple $100 fix, or thousands of dollars fix, depending on what kind of car you got, because you didn't get the small thing resolved. So the point I'm making in that is, what I have found is, on my to-do list, there's a lot of little things that just need to get done. And that doesn't mean they need to get done by me, though. And that's always been my problem, is I've known that other people could probably do this thing, but I knew I could do it faster. And I knew I need to pay somebody else to do this, so I could just get it done and be over and done with. And it's not a great way to run a business that you plan to grow. And so what happens to too many businesses like ours, is that we end up having single, one person on payroll. Some of us don't even have real payroll. We just take money out the business. But for general purposes, most of our businesses don't have more than one employee. And so TolHouse, there's 22 people here on staff. And so what I have had to learn how to do is not continue to dig myself in these holes that I had previously dug in other businesses, where I had painted myself in the corners because I was the only person doing things, which means I was the only person who knew how and why we did things certain ways, because all the institutional knowledge was in my head. And so what's been important for me is to allow other people and systems, technologies even, to take over some of this stuff. So particularly, again, back to Lucille's, I know that was a long way back to Lucille's, but with Lucille's, even I was doing all these voiceovers. So now we're using AI, and I'm just typing in, hey, here's the artist we have, here's our typical intros, create these voiceovers. So now I use 11 Labs for this. So 11 Labs just creates all of our voiceovers for all of these shows. And so it doesn't need to be my voice that's introducing people to these acts who perform at Lucille. So that's one way that we're using these technologies to be able to just relieve things from my plate. And soon there'll be somebody else who just does it, and I don't even got to be involved in it anymore. But today it's just me going to the website, inputting the artist and spitting it out. And then I send the MP3 to my guy. Soon, again, there will be somebody else who says, okay, there's an act coming up. Make sure we have this voiceover for the intro, and I won't even be involved anymore. But again, this comes as a process of working myself out of the hole that I dug myself into. How else are we using AI here at TolHouse? So another way we've been using AI here at TolHouse is just working on our events calendar. And so because we have all this member data and data for people who even just visit as guests, we've built this database of interests and database of profiles, a database of demographics that we can then build programming around. So our 2 words of the year for 2025 are partnership and program development here at TolHouse. So partnership was also our word of the year for 2024. And what that means was, it wasn't necessarily that we built TolHouse to be the sole producers of all of our programming. We wanted our members to take the front seat on the types of programs they wanted to see us do. So members became the faces, the influencers of the programs that we developed here. For 2025, we're keeping that same sentiment alive, but we're also adding in professional development, because so many of our members, if not a third, close to it, are on corporate memberships. So that means that they come here to work. They come here during the day. They come here to have meetings. They come here to, as their hybrid or remote office. And so they're getting work done here. And so how about we lean into that and provide them professional development opportunities, to where they're hearing a talk, or they're listening to a fireside chat, or they're engaging in a seminar to help them be better at what it is that they're aiming at. So whether they're working somewhere or whether they're starting a business, they're going to find the programming that they need here to help them be better. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing a talk coming up on prompting for AI that's specific for small businesses, how to prompt AI to help get you the information that you need to grow your small business. So that's one of the things. We also have other talks on things that are not necessarily just business related, but things about the kind of food you eat. So there's people in our membership database who are very interested in more holistic foods. But the point is, we used AI. We just dumped all this information, all this characteristic information about our members, and we use that to analyze what types of programming might be of interest to people in this population. And so I've been using a lot of ChatGPT's muscle to build out our programming calendar and come up with ideas that otherwise we wouldn't have thought of. I've even done it for Lucille's. Like, one of the interesting things with Lucille's is it's a jazz club. Jazz and blues is what we do in there. And is constantly like booking an act for a show. And we have a fickle market. And so people don't always want to see the artist that you think is fire or that may work in other communities and other markets. Just because they work in another market doesn't mean they're going to work here in Toledo. And so I've been using ChatGPT just to provide guidance on how I should think about our programming in Lucille's, our talent roster. And it came up with this idea, going back and forth with it, of alternative types of shows. And so what we're doing actually is a show coming up, I think it's in February, where we're doing an album show to where there will be an MC or host who will be on stage, and members of the audience can bring an album with them, actual vinyl, 12-inch vinyl with them, or 45 with them, of a song that means something to them. They get an opportunity to tell the story of that album or song, and the audience gets an opportunity to enjoy that song alongside them. And so that's an idea I would not have come up with otherwise. But we were going through this analysis with ChatGPT of how to think about our location and that stage differently. Like, what can we do other than just booking talent on that stage? And through that process, came up with this really creative idea of having, an album party, an album show. So I'm super excited about that one because I have a very big record collection, and I never really get an opportunity anymore to share those songs with other people. And so you might have people over to your house, or you might have, maybe you're a DJ who still spins with wax, but just to have these old records that sit up in your grandmother's, attic or wherever they are, having an opportunity to pull those out, dust them off, and bring them to a jazz club and blues club and play them for people, and then get an opportunity to tell the story behind why it means so much to you, I think is super duper special. On the Creadio side, how we're using AI is, for number one, very surface level action is to just help us with emails. So I want to respond to emails in specific ways, just train a particular GPT on this is how I'll respond to emails, or just spit out a response. We use AI a lot for writing scripts. And so if we get from clients, this is the goal of this particular effort, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a documentary or whatever, it's often putting together that shot list, the script, and all of those things, the creative treatments. We're doing a lot of that stuff with ChatGPT now. Writing blog posts for just putting thought leadership. And so I may have ideas on particular things that are happening in the marketplace, things that are happening in our community, things that are happening globally that would be good to distribute on Creadio's platforms on social media. And I don't always need to spend an hour or 2 hours or half an hour writing a blog post when I can put the general ideas down and just work through on Claude, writing out a blog post and tailoring it for our audience. And one quick thing there is, like, we use ChatGPT to do a lot of analysis, and I use Claude to do more writing. And there's a lot of people I've heard that use it the same way. And I really believe that it's more the user interface than it is like the technical, offering. This is my own personal hot take, because ChatGPT, you can get really great content, written content out of ChatGPT also, but the user interface on Claude is so much more aesthetically pleasing to write on. So I think that is, even Claude, take the alternative approach like Claude, you can do really deep analysis, but ChatGPT, it looks like an analysis machine. It's kind of like how, Apple and Microsoft used to be back in the day. Like, Apple was for creatives and Microsoft was for business people. It's like, that's kind of like that, way of, or corporate business people, I should say. Corporate business people like Microsoft and creatives like Apple. But Claude tends to be more leaning, because of the user interface, it's a beautiful place to write. ChatGPT, if I'm just doing analysis, again, it's a great place to provide analysis and insights. We also do voiceover work, so again, those documentaries who need voices, using 11 Labs. I use 11 Labs for that. So what am I doing, with these businesses, particularly the real estate? So I talked about, we have these 4 properties right here in the Vistula district. And I've been very intentional about only acquiring properties that are in this same area, because I want to own this area. And we're doing a pretty good job towards that goal. We're 60,000 square feet now, and across 4 buildings. And there is a market that we're opening this year. We're going to move the cigar lounge out of TolHouse and put it in one of the other buildings and make it publicly accessible. There will be members only areas, but the Vistula district, where my businesses are located, is on the outside of downtown. And for our purposes, we need more bodies in the area. And so what's been important for us is to create concepts that just bring more foot traffic, more drive traffic in the area, that helps the whole ecosystem grow, the whole area grow. And so we're moving the cigar lounge out of TolHouse into one of the buildings, and it'll be members only area. And then another part of it will be open to the public. We'll have a bar in there, food concept. And then the market, which, just follow along on my personal stories, you'll see more about the market to come. But the market, we live in a community that has like a Fresh Time, Fresh Market. We don't have a Whole Foods. I think we're supposed to be getting the Trader Joe's. But there's an opportunity there for us to create more premium offerings, better options for the community. This is not necessarily like a food desert effort to help, dissolve that. I believe that is a worthwhile effort. I believe that there's people who should be tackling that effort. I'm not necessarily personally making that effort to solve a food desert issue. I am building a business to compete at the highest levels with the Whole Foods, the Trader Joe's, the Fresh Markets, the Erewhons. Like, that's where we are targeted. So I want to build a premium market that is that emphasizes brand, and you'll see more of that in my conversations here on this podcast, my YouTube channel, my social media. So follow along for that. And then there's some other concepts. We've been thinking about other wine concepts, butcher shops, small businesses that feed the ecosystem, the local ecosystem where there's gaps in the marketplace. But what's important to me is that I'm taking advantage of these opportunities, because these opportunities won't be available forever. And they are real market opportunities. And you'll hear me talk more this year about how we're going to scale these things, because as you recognize, or you might have thought, well, these businesses don't necessarily scale. They could, if I position them in certain ways, but I'm trying to specifically target local opportunities. But there will be software plays that I will talk more about on this podcast that provide scale globally. So we're building the technology because I'm very adamant on not subscribing to a whole bunch of other software to plug in to help us run our business more efficiently. We're building that software because I have an agency that builds technology. So not only at Creadio do we do video production and website development, we build software. And so we'll see more of that effort pointed in-house to where we'll be completely vertically integrated, where you'll have this private club, this grocery store, this butcher shop, cigar lounge, all premium offerings vertically integrated and underpinned by a marketing company. And that's super important to me because we can own the whole stack, and create more opportunities that way. So that's what's happening in my 2025. And what I want to leave you with is kind of how we started is just because it's a new year and just because we roll the calendar over, your year will not necessarily stay the same. And your year will not necessarily change or be better if you don't change your operations, your habits, and your daily activities. If you do the same things you did last year, your year will potentially be worse than 2024, because just as you are staying stasis, just because you're not changing, and you might make the same amount of money you did in 2024 that you will make in 2025, or you might be the same weight in 2025 that you did in 2024. You might, have the same output in 2025 that you did in 2024. Well, the market around you is actually growing and getting more efficient and getting richer. So if you're staying flat, everything else is changing around you, which means you are declining. And so while it may look on its face as everything is the same, nothing is the same, because the system around you is getting more efficient and richer. There's more wealth being created and all of these things. So I want you to spend some time, if you have not done it yet, mapping out your 2025. Give the first couple of weeks of the year to yourself and really map out what you want this to look like. If you're great, you would have started in the end of 2024, but it's not too late to really get a handle on what you want this year to look like for yourself. Because I've already noticed there's certain things that I didn't like about my daily life in 2024 are already starting to creep back into my days. And it's up to me to make sure I extinguish that, number one, but get a hold and grasp of the things that need to be operationalized and standardized so that by the end of 2025, I'm not again completely gassed out. And so just because it's a new day, just because it's a new year, does not mean that everything is changed. Change the things intentionally and be specific about what you want this year to look like. So that's my word for you. That is the first episode of Black Tech Green Money for 2025. It's a new season of the Black Tech Green Money podcast. And so I'm glad you spent this first episode with me just to set the landscape of what we're going to do this year. So if you enjoy this and you're looking forward to this next season of Black Tech Green Money, I'm asking, just go ahead and share this episode with somebody. Put something in the comments. I really appreciate that. Like this episode, because that just helps the algorithm give it to more people. So if you like this, if you got some value out of it, share it with somebody, comment on it. Just hit like, subscribe. And I appreciate everything you bring to this podcast. Every single one of you guys who've been rocking with me for 5 seasons so far. We're going into our 6th season. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. Let's get to it.